Okay, I think we can get started. So welcome to this session. My name is Tiff. I have Dave here with me. We both are product engineers working with the operations dashboard team. We also have Pat and Jeff standing at the back. So in this session, we're going to talk about what's new in operations dashboard. But before we get started, let's do a quick survey. So who has never used dashboard before? Can you please raise your hand? Yeah, okay, so we got about 50%. So the rest of you have used dashboard to some degree, I assume. Okay, that's good. That's awesome. Some of you might know that we have rebuilt dashboard from ground up last year. So one thing I want to mention is that for most of you, dashboard might still be pretty new because there's a lot of new capabilities and new stuff in it. You can use dashboard in ArcGIS Online and also ArcGIS Enterprise. As of now, there will still be a lot of new functionality. So in the first part of the session, we're going to talk about what's currently in dashboard, what's in the current release of dashboard. And then in the second half of the session, we're going to talk about what's coming in the next release of dashboard. We have a very simple agenda. So first of all, I'm going to give a quick product overview about operations dashboard. And then Dave and I will be doing some demos. Finally, I'll point you to some resources where you can learn more about dashboard, and then we'll have a Q&A session. Okay, so operations dashboard is a configurable web application that's included in ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise 10.6 or above. So members in an organization can create, manage, and share dashboards. They can share the dashboard within the organization with other members of the org. They can also share dashboard with the public. So each dashboard consists of visual elements such as maps, charts, gauges, indicators, lists, and other elements. These elements are arranged on a single screen on a web browser, basically. A dashboard can be configured to provide an unattended or an interactive user experience. So by unattended, I mean a dashboard can be displayed on a big screen, like something you see here is displayed on a big screen, typically a projector mounted on a wall in the environments such as like a briefing room or maybe an operation center. On the other hand, dashboard configured in an interactive mode, they are often displayed on a personal device, like desktop computer or maybe a tablet. And they come with tools for the end users to interact with these visual elements. Dashboard is real-time capable, meaning that you can display some information in real time on dashboard. So you can get the latest of what's going on for the things that you want to monitor using your dashboard. So you can imagine that dashboard can be used for monitoring performance, like key performance indicators. It can also be used for monitoring events that are planned or unplanned in the field. And the goal of a dashboard is to inform user at a glance, and dashboard can be a decision-making tool. Okay, next I'm going to show some sample dashboard that some customers have built. Instead of just showing you some screenshot, I'm going to go over to my browser. Okay, give me just 1 second. Okay, I'm going to go over to my browser. And here I have a dashboard that shows the highway construction project in Tompkins County. So as you can see on the left side of this dashboard, it has a big indicator that tells like how many bridges are closed currently. At the top, there's also a pie chart that breaks down the projects by type. So at a glance, you get the idea about like what kind of project is ongoing in this area and how many bridges or roads are closed right now. And also at the bottom, you can see the number of miles of roads that have been that have the construction finished up to today. So so by just looking at this dashboard, you have the information about the progress of the project and other kind of information. So the other dashboard that I want to show you, this is actually one of my favorite dashboards. It's showing the current earthquake that's happening around the globe. There's a big map sitting at the center of the dashboard. Also on the side, you can see a big like a kind of summary that shows the total count of earthquake that's happening. Down a little bit, there's a list that actually has the more detailed information about each of the earthquake that's happening. And there's a bar chart that breaks down the number of earthquakes that happen every day. So a moment ago, I mentioned about the two types of dashboard, unattended mode and attended mode. So this dashboard and the previous dashboard, they can be mounted on the big screen. But actually, for this dashboard, there's some kind of interaction that you can do with the dashboard. So over here, I have brought up the left panel on the dashboard, and that gives me a list of tools that I can use to do some selection on my dashboard. So for example, on this tool here, I'm going to change the magnitude so that I'm only seeing the earthquakes that are having a magnitude at 5 or lower. So I can do other kind of interaction, like I can choose only to see only earthquake instead of like all the activities that are going on. Okay, so after seeing some cool samples, Dave is going to do the demo and show us what's in the current dashboard. That's something that you can make use of and you can do when you go back to work next week. So, to you, Dave.
All right. Wow, we have a lot of people here. It's great. If people have some room, if they could scoot in, it would make it would let some people get off the ground or sit down. So yeah, as Tiff mentioned, I'll be going through and showing you, kind of showing you the ropes for how to get started building dashboards and show you a few cool things along the way. Starting off with a scenario, let's say the police commissioner for a city comes to us and wants a dashboard for his office. He wants to see the criminal activity as it's happening or as the data is coming in. And in discussing his vision for this dashboard, he'd like to answer some questions. Where have the most recent crimes occurred? How many have there been in the last 24 hours? What is the breakdown of crime type and division? And what's the trend over the last 28 days? So I have the map here because obviously a map is great for showing where crimes occur. Making some tweaks to the symbology, I'm able to emphasize the recent crimes. So in addition to showing the crime type by color, I'm using an arcade expression to basically calculate how long ago the crime happened in hours. And then I'm also accounting for the map scale, a variable down here, so that as I zoom in, my symbols get larger and I can see them at the street level. I'm also using a dark vector base map because I want to use the dark theme in operations dashboard just so it's not so bright on the wall. I have a refresh interval on my layer that will get carried over into the dashboard and any element that is consuming this layer. And so with that, we can jump into building a dashboard. Right from this share button, you can create a web app using Operations Dashboard. Or from the content page, you can click Create. Under App, there's Operations Dashboard. Or you can go to the app launcher and go to the home page of Operations Dashboard. So I created a dashboard and brought in our map. And the commissioner wanted to know how many crimes there have been in the last 24 hours. An indicator is a nice way to visualize this. So it presents a summary statistic. In this case, I'm just counting how many features are in my layer. And in this case, I only want the last 24 hours. So there's a lot of advanced date-based filtering options here. So this is the number today. We could do yesterday, not we can't see into the future, so I guess it all works out. That's how many are this week. And we can also do is within the last number of days or the last 24 hours. If you use days, we go back whole days to midnight, the start of a day, in your user's local time zone. We can add some summary text here to give context. And let's say the commissioner has stated that if there's been more than 200 crimes in a given day, it deserves some special attention. So we can define what's called a reference. You could think of it as a threshold. So I can enter 200 here, and now I'm displaying my reference, but I could display the percentage here, and I can format the number right there. And then I can also turn on what's called conditional formatting. When I do this, I get two previews. Basically, when my value is below 200, I can display it one way, and when it's above or at 200, I can display it a different way. So let's say when I've surpassed that threshold, I want to show an icon. And maybe I want to make this text red. Or I could even make the background color, a bold red. All right, so as you can see, the background of the element is white, as well as the dashboard. And as I mentioned, I want to be in dark theme, so I can simply switch that. Another thing that would be nice to have for the commissioner is a crime feed, more or less a list of recent crimes. So adding that, we can choose what information from our attributes we show. So we can show the crime type, the time it was dispatched, and the general location block. You can style this in a number of different ways. We can give it a header. And it's added to our layout. Now that we have three elements, we can see that the elements subdivide the layout, or the layout is subdivided by the elements. And if you hover in the top left, you can grab them and reposition them. As you hover over these little icons that show up, you can drop them and reposition them. Next, let's add a chart. So the commissioner wanted to know the breakdown of crimes by type and also division. We can add a serial chart. A serial chart is a chart that can visualize your data as columns, as a bar chart, line chart, area chart. It's very flexible and powerful. So I'm creating categories from grouped values and using my division field. I have 6 unique divisions, and so it's creating a category for each one of those unique values and then doing a count statistic for the height of the bar. I can filter out my empty values, and give the chart a meaningful sort order. Now, in addition, I can split each category by the crime type by simply adding a split by field. So now I have the number of crimes per type as well as per division. And we can stack these. So again, we can see the total overall number of crimes per division with the context of the, or the composition of the bars by crime type. Or given that the population may be a different size, or the population may be different per division, we could make everything expand 100%, and so you can see that the Central Police Division has a proportionally higher rate of larceny. There's many different options you can play with as far as tweaking the look and the feel of the chart. As far as the colors go, I won't take the time to do it, but it is a very powerful effect when you choose the same colors as your symbology, so that it creates a meaningful correlation to the symbols on your map and in the list. We can add another serial chart and do a date-based chart. Choosing our dispatch date field, we can bin it into a minimum period of days or hours. And from here, we can visualize it as a bar chart, a line chart. We can add an area opacity. We can also add data points, show labels, and as with the indicator, we can also include a sort of threshold on this chart. And we can do that using a guide. So I'll put a guide at the 200 mark on the value axis. And include a label. So that way you can easily see what days have exceeded that threshold. There's many different options for the formatting of the labels, the date labels. Just as an example, I can include the day of week on there. Or I can keep it very simple and only show the day number, and then on the first of the month, I'll show the month and the year. In addition to moving these elements around, you can actually stack them and create tabs like this. And you can also group elements so that the margin between them disappears, and you can even stack groups and move groups around together. So there's a lot of options there. Now this is looking like a really great dashboard, and I'm pretty confident that the commissioner would be quite pleased with it, and it would serve him very well. But what if he wanted to see this dashboard for a specific police division? We could recreate this for each police division, but that would be a lot of work for us and for him to manage all these dashboards. Fortunately, Operations Dashboard has some interactive components that we can utilize. So I'll add what's called a header, and it can be used in multiple ways. So I can obviously give it a title. I could insert a background image or a background color. And I can include links to external websites. Now, another thing that you can do with it is put these interactive components, what we call selectors. We're going to add what's called a category selector. And with a category selector, we're able to take data from our layers and then apply filters dynamically to our dashboard. So we'll make a drop-down with our divisions. So here I have each division listed here. And I'll make it so you can select one or multiple divisions. And then I have to wire it up to the elements that I want it to affect. So in this case, when I choose a division, I'm going to zoom my map to it. Additionally, I want to filter things. So as I was mentioning, I can filter my map layers and all my other elements when I choose one or more divisions. And because this is a polygon, I can choose to filter my points based on the geometry. So just showing the features within that geometry. And so that would be a spatial. Or in this case, on both layers, I have a field for the division name. All right. So when I choose a division, now my map and my other elements are filtered to show just crimes for that division. Cool? All right. So I can also add a date selector. I can let the end user, the commissioner, control what date range he wants to see this dashboard for. Or I could give him a date picker so that he can see what happened on a specific day. In this case, I'll just add a few options. So last 28 days. Last 7 days, and the last 24 hours. And I can visualize this either as a drop-down or a button bar where you can choose a button. And again, I have to wire it up. I have to tell what I want to do with it and what elements I want to target. So I want to filter my map layer as well as certain elements. Now my indicator actually has a 24-hour filter on it, so I'm not going to target that one, but I will target my 2 serial charts and my map layer using the dispatch date. Oops. Okay, so now I can choose 7 days or last 24 hours. Oh, I think I have a typo. Nobody caught it? All right, there we go. Now I'm only showing the large symbols on my map, as those are the last 24 hours.
Can you do the divisions with that?
Yeah. And then I can additionally apply the division filters, like so. All right. Cool. I'll hand it back to Tiff.
Thanks, Dave. Very cool demo. Okay, so what Dave just showed us is really cool. Next, I'm going to show what's coming in the next release of Dashboard in April. In the upcoming release, we have added some new map tools. We've also added a new visual element. We've made some enhancement to some existing features. So in the next 2 demos, I'm going to talk about each of them. So here I have a crime dashboard open. This is very similar to what Dave just used in his demo, but a more simplified version. So now, so in the next release, we will be able to apply actions on charts, meaning that like on the line chart I have on the right side of the dashboard, right now it's showing the crimes that have happened in the past 28 days. But what if we want to only see the crimes that happened, say, in the past 5 days? So in the next release, we'll be able to do the selection right from the chart, and then the selection will trigger a filter action on other visual elements on my dashboard. So to do that, I'm coming to the config dialog of the line chart. You'll notice that we have added a new tab on the config dialog, and it allows me to configure the actions on the visual element. So right here, I'm going to apply a filter action so that when I do a selection on the line chart, I'm going to filter the crime layer on the map as well as on the bar chart, which is the other visual element on the dashboard. So now when I click Done, coming back to my dashboard here, I'm going to create a time window towards the past 5 days. And now I want you to pay attention to the map and also the bar chart. So once I created this time window, you can see that the bar chart will be updated immediately. And it's only showing me the crimes that have happened in the past 5 days with the same breakdown into different districts and different types of crime. Also on the map, we're seeing less point features now because we're only seeing the crimes in the past 5 days. So by applying the same technique, I can also create a filter on the bar chart, so I can be only seeing the crimes that are happening in a certain police district. So to do that, I will come to the config dialog of the bar chart. I'll come to this action tab, the same config experience. And then now I'm going to add a filter action on the bar chart, so that when I do a selection on the chart, I'm going to filter the same crime layer on the map as well as on the line chart. So now you can see that they will be interacting, the visual elements will be interacting with each other, and they will be filtering each other. And that can get pretty interesting. One thing I did not mention, which I want to bring up now, is the fact that on the chart tab, we have added a new option so that it will support a single selection mode or multiple selection mode. And I'll show it to you in a second. So I'll leave it as multiple for now. And when I click Done to finish the configuration, so I still have that same the date filter on my line chart. But now, when I click on one of the police district, basically the label at the bottom of the chart, So I'm only selecting the bars in that area. So what I have just done is I'm selecting all the crime types that have happened in the Northeast Police District. And when I do that, you can see that only the point features that are on the Northeast District remains on the map. Everything else will be filtered out. So now if I want to get rid of one of the crime types, I can click on that bar, and then I'm not seeing the crime of that type. So that's what the multiple selection actually means. Okay. So now we are going to look at the details of the crimes in the Northeast Police District. I can use some new map tools to go to that particular area in the map. So let me show you the config experience of the map visual element. So we have reworked a little bit on this page by moving things into different tabs so that they are more well organized. So now on the first page, you can configure different kinds of map tools to add to your map visual elements. You can also configure the map actions or actions on each individual layers, which we'll get to later in the next demo. So in the upcoming release, we will be releasing 2 new map tools. The first one is a scale bar. This is pretty standard for any mapping application. The other map tool that we have added is a search map tool. So obviously, I have already added them to my map, so I'm just going to cancel here. So the scale bar is at the bottom left of the map, and the search tool is one of the tools here at the upper right. So when I click on the search tool to enable it, to activate it, I can enter an address or a location. And as I enter the location, I will get some suggestions from the locator. Also, it depends on how you set up your web map or your organization. You can enable feature search on your dashboard. So an example can be you have a bunch of assets on the field, and you want to do a feature search by the asset ID. You will also be able to do that through the search tool. So now I'm going to click on one of the suggestions on this tool, and then it's going to take us to a closer area in the Northeast District. Okay, I'm going to close this pop-up here. At this scale level, we not only will see the base map, we also see the crime, but we also see a camera layer. So this layer actually shows us the traffic camera of that in that particular location. So when I click on one of these camera features, right now it's pretty boring because it only shows us the camera number. Not very exciting. So to make the dashboard more useful, we can actually show the video feed or camera feed that's captured by that traffic camera in real time right now in Philadelphia. So to do that, I'm going to introduce a new visual element that we've added for the next release. That's the embedded content element. So in the config window, it's pretty simple. It allows me to specify a URL. It can be a URL to a static web page, maybe like a page to a report, to a website, to other kind of information. The URL can also come from features from my layers. So in this case, I'm going to choose the traffic cameras layer. Okay, nothing shows up, but I want to show you the data table very quickly. So right now we can see the camera numbers, and actually I can construct a URL based on the attribute information from the traffic cameras. So to do that, let me come over to my cheat sheet here. I'm going to copy a URL, and then coming back here to my dashboard. I'm going to paste it here, and there's the placeholder text that I'm going to get rid of. And next, I'm going to insert the camera number field into the URL. So now when I come back to the preview, you can see the vehicles moving on the screen, and actually that is taking the video feed from that camera in real time currently in Philadelphia. All right, so let's give it a nicer name by calling it video. And I'm going to turn off the last update text and click done. Also, I'm going to move this guy to the bottom of the screen so that it doesn't take up all my screen space. So you might be wondering why there's a white space like on the widget here, and actually that comes from the web page itself. So on this web page with the video feed, it has a white background on the website. So when you are going to create your own embedded content and embed the element, you might want to think about what kind of background color, what kind of theme you want to put on your page so that it will look nice in your dashboard. Okay, so now the embedded content is showing me 17 features, as you can see at the top of that element. But what if I actually want to go to a particular video, particular camera, and see the video feed there? So to do that, I can go to the config experience of the map visual element. I can go to the layer actions tab. And next, I'm going to define a filter action. So now when I select a traffic camera, it's going to do a filter. It's going to apply a filter for that video, the visual element that I have just created. So now I'm going to click Done. And then I will activate the Select tool on my map. And then I'm going to click on another camera. And now you see another video feed coming through. And if I click on another one, I'll get the video of the other camera. So you can see this becomes very interactive when I select something on the map, or maybe when I select something from another visual element. It will actually drive the embedded content element and show the appropriate content there. Okay, so next, I'm going to show another dashboard and talk about some other cool features that we have made for the upcoming release. So this is a totally different dashboard. It's showing us the water quality of different water sites in Maryland. So as you can see at the top, I have 3 indicators, and they're basically telling us that most of the water sites, the water quality are good. Some of them need attention, and some of them we don't know. And also on the dashboard, I have a list element here, so that when I click on each list item, it pans to that feature on the map. It also flashes the feature a couple of times on the map. But what if we actually want to know the information about the water quality, like what's the bacteria level, what's the water temperature, what's the water pressure, all those kind of information. So to do that, a gauge will be a good tool to show us that kind of information. Okay, so I'll come over here, and then I'm going to add a gauge. So gauge itself is not a new visual element, but what I'm going to show is the new things that we have made to enhance the gauge visual element. And you can actually apply the same thing to indicator. So the same enhancement applies to both gauge and indicator. So I'm going to choose the layer, and it's going to generate a preview. Before I talk about this data tab, let me go to the gauge tab for a second. And then I'm going to quickly talk about like different kind of gauges that we can create. So basically, there are 2 kinds of gauges. One is like a progress gauge. So maybe you want to show something that you want to compare with a goal, like number of tasks that have been completed today versus number of tasks that you want to complete this week. So a progress gauge will be a good tool to show this kind of information. The other kind of gauge that we can create is a meter gauge. So a meter gauge will show the measurement that fluctuates a lot, like blood pressure, air temperature, water temperature. And you can imagine that this will be a good tool to show the information of the water site. Okay, so coming back to the data tab, I can actually show the attribute information of each individual feature. So this is the change that we have made for the next release. So I can set up a gauge so that it only shows me the attribute information of the features that I've selected on a visual element or on a map. All right, and here I want to show the bacteria level of the features. Right now it's showing no value because some of the data sites don't have that information. So let me very quickly create a filter. And then I'm going to get rid of the data points that don't have a value in it. Okay, so now I'm getting something here. I can specify a min value and a max value, but I'm not going to do that. I'll just leave them to the default value, 0 and 100. So now I'm coming back to the gauge tab one more time, and I can set up a guide to the gauge so that when the bacteria level is, say, over 80%, I want some visual cue to indicate to me that things are not looking good. Okay, finally, I want to give it a nice name. Let's call it like a bacteria level gauge. And also on the title, I can insert some attribute information to my gauge. So in this case, I want to give the water body name to the gauge. And when I click done, okay, so now I got a gauge created for me. Let me drag this guy over. All right, so when I click on the list, well, the map is updating, but my gauge is not updating. So to wire up the list with the gauge, we're going to apply the same concept of using the interactive tools. So to do that, I go to the config window of the list, and then I'm coming back to the Actions tab one more time. And I'm going to set up a filter action. So this is the same technique that I have been using over and over again to wire up different visual elements together. So now I have set up a filter action so that when I make a selection on the list, it's going to filter that gauge that I just created. All right, so let's see if it works. Okay, so now when I click on the different water site, you can see that the gauge is also updating. It gives me the attribute information, the water body name of that particular site. It also gives me the reading. If I try a different one, and it's also giving me a correct reading. Okay, so let's assume that we want to share this dashboard to the public because this information is pretty important to them. Before I want to share the dashboard to the public, I want to add a header so that it can give some branding to my dashboard. So let's add a header element real quick. All right, so now I come to the header panel. Dave has shown us how to configure a header panel in his demo. In the next release, we have made some enhancements so that when you want to specify a logo for your dashboard, not only can you specify URL to your logo, you can also pick an icon. It can be like a built-in icons that we provide. It can also be a custom SVG file that you want that works for you. So let me just choose an icon very quickly. Optionally, I can change the color to the one that I want. So click done, and now I will get the header here, and let me save my dashboard. So the last step I want to do before I share this dashboard to the public is I want to add some demographic layer to the dashboard. So for example, the public might want to know the population density of different areas in this dashboard. So to do that, I'm coming back to the web map that's used in the dashboard. And then I'm going to add a layer from Living Atlas. Okay, let me get rid of that search text, and then I'm going to search one more time because I want to search for population density. I must have got a typo somewhere. Okay, there you go. Okay, so there's a USA population density layer, and you can see that there's a little text here that says this is a premium content. So what that means is in order to use this layer, it's going to require organizational subscription. It will require login. In addition, the premium content will consume credits. So if I want to share this layer and my dashboard to the public, I want to be able to enable this layer so that the public can use it without being prompted to log in. Okay, I'm going to save the map with this layer. And then I'm coming back to the dashboard. Let me refresh the page. And next, I'm going to show how to enable that layer so that the public can get access to it. All right, so not surprisingly, the layer comes through. And now, before I can make this dashboard available to the public, I will come over here and then click on the Subscriber Content tab. A modal dialog will come up, and then I'm going to enable this layer. And optionally, I can limit the number of web requests that's being sent to the layer, say, per minute, so that my credits will not be consumed too quickly. Okay, so now the layer has been enabled to allow premium access, and also my dashboard has been shared to the public. Then I can grab the URL and then share it to whoever will be interested in looking into this dashboard. Okay, so that's the end for the second demo. So let me come back to my PowerPoint slide real quick. And then we'll do just a very quick recap of what we have just looked at, the new features that will be coming in Ops Dashboard in April. So in the demo, I've shown that serial chart can be a source for actions. Actually, you can do the same thing for pie chart. So whatever I've shown in my demo, it also applies to pie chart. We've also shown you the new map tools, the search, and the scale bar. We have added a new visual element, that's embedded content element, which allows you to embed web page, video, or images through a URL. Also, we've shown a gauge that works in a single feature mode, and you can do the same for indicator. So you can show a particular attribute information for a feature in an indicator. We've also made some improvement to the header element. So now you'll be able to specify an icon instead of a URL for the logo. Finally, we have provided a better support for subscriber content. Okay, so the last slide that we want to show you is some resources. So for those of you who are new to Dashboard, the doc will be a good place to get started. It has resources to some sample dashboards. Also, it has the link to our blog, to GeoNet, also some tutorials that you can get started with. So this will be a good place to start. I'm going to show you a new trick if you want to try out our sample. So for all the sample dashboard that I have shown you, actually, a secret trick that I can share with you is you can make a copy in it, and you can reverse engineer the dashboard and see how they were configured. So to do that, there's a link here. Basically, the most important part is the new question mark. So you go to this URL, basically to your organization, and then you put a / new question mark, and then you put the ID of the dashboard that you want to make a copy of. So once you go to this URL, it's going to prompt you to save a copy of that dashboard into your content. Now that it becomes one of your dashboard, then you can start configuring it and get to know how it was built. So this is a really good trick to learn dashboard. Finally, if you want to stay in touch, we have an email alias, dashboard4arcgis@esri.com. Also, we are on Twitter, so I got some hashtag there that you can search for and follow us. So that's the end of the session. Please spend a moment, take our survey, and now we're open up to the Q&A session. Yes?
Can you deploy the browser-based operations dashboard in enterprise?
So into where? Enterprise? Okay, so the question is, can you deploy a dashboard into Portal? So yes, if you have a 10.6 Portal, you can deploy dashboard in it.
Yeah, not the old installer ones, because I know you could do it where you could deploy it through Portal and you can download and install the old Windows version. So is there the new browser-based version where you can add it as an app in Portal and app launcher?
So for 10.6, it will support the new one. So it will have a separate installer that you will download from my Esri. But actually, in 10.6.1, starting from 10.6.1, Dashboard will become part of Portal. So you don't have to deploy separately Dashboard into Portal.
So it's like really a 10.6.1.
Well, what I'm saying is like 10.6.1, Dashboard will be part of Portal. No extra deployment. But for 10.6, you just need to take one extra step to deploy it.
Right, and that's the one that, because the old one uses the operation views and the new one doesn't. So this is the new one, right?
Correct.
Documentation online isn't very yet, it's not updated, so I wanted to just clarify.
Okay, sure, okay. Any other questions? Yes?
Yeah. When selecting fields and building the widgets and stuff, will fields created through arcade expression show up?
So the question was about can you use arcade expressions that were defined perhaps in the web map? Not at this time. But it is something that we are looking into and do hope to support down the road. Yeah.
Yes.
Just a follow-up to that, so if you apply any kind of arcade expressions in your map, such as renders or pop-ups or any of that, will any of that come through?
So Dave, you might want to answer that.
Yeah, they will come through in your pop-up. So here, this is a result of an arcade expression. I'm doing the calculation of time passed. But that's currently the only place I believe that it will come through. Yeah. Did you have a quick follow-up?
Really quickly, is there any requirement for where the data has to live, quote unquote? Like, does it need to be in a data store? Or?
You want to take that?
So the question is there any requirements of where the data needs to live, right? Like, does it have to be a data store or something? Yeah. No, there's no requirements for that because basically we are consuming surfaces. So it can be a feature surface hosted or like in a server. It can also be a dynamic map surface if you want to use them to power your visual elements. But if you just want to display them as like a reference layer, then we have like less restriction on that. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Do the date and time query filters work if you've got standardized queries, SQL queries turned on the server?
So the question is, will the selector, the date selector works, right? If you turn on standardized query in a server, yes, it will work. Yeah. Yes.
So when you deploy it in Portal, is it going to be an app like Insights where it has to be installed in Portal, or can it be deployed on a separate set of web servers like Web App Builder for developers?
Okay, so the question is when you deploy dashboard into Portal, basically 10.6 Portal, right? So will it be in the Portal or will it be on a separate server, right? That's
Can you do it on a separate server?
okay, you cannot do it in a separate server, yeah. Well, one of the reasons behind is we want to provide a experience very similar to online, where in online, like what Dave showed us, when you go to the main site, there will be a button that you can launch dashboard, right? So we want to make sure that you have the same kind of experience in enterprise. Okay, never mind, it's getting pretty slow. But any other questions?
Yeah.
If you have custom widgets and toolbars on the map, will they come through if you use the same map?
Question is, if you have custom widgets and toolbars on the map, will they come through? So how did you create the custom widgets?
So I haven't created it.
Oh, okay.
Just, like, went through like a bunch of sessions and they said like how you can add like custom widgets and stuff to the maps.
Is it like web app
Like a
build?
zoom in, zoom out, or like selecting multiple layers, turning layers on and off and things like that.
You have any thoughts on that?
Are you thinking of like a templated app or web app builder that you're doing that in? It's purely in the web map? I guess short answer is no, they wouldn't come through.
Yeah. If you have a map that you can show us, then I mean we can try it out. Yeah. Yes.
Can you do some kind of relationship to additional tables or standalone tables from ArcGIS Online?
The question was about when you have related records or you have a related table to perhaps a spatial layer. You can configure your elements to cross-filter. So for instance, from a list, you could select an asset and then see another list of records or reports that were generated over time for that asset. So you can create those kind of relationships.
When you
Sorry.
were zooming in on the line graph or clicking on the bar chart to remove an item, was there a way to quickly reset that back to the way it was, or do you have to do a browser refresh to bring it back?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
You were showing how you could like zoom into a span on the line graph.
Yes.
If you wanted to reset that back to the way it originally was, do you have to refresh the browser,
Okay.
or is there like a reset button that will put it back to its
Okay.
previous state?
You're talking about this demo, right? This one. Okay. So the question is like, is there a way to reset the clear the selection right from the chart, right? That's very simple. So all I need to do is I just click on the chart. It will reset. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, just, could you refresh the page with the resources on it?
Oh, sure. Yeah. The page with the resources. This one. Okay. Sure. There you go. Yes.
Is it possible to do custom charting, like D3 visuals, if you've got something already pre-built?
So the question is, can you do custom charting or custom visual elements, right? Not at this point. So for the new dashboard, we don't have a developer story yet. Short answer is you won't be able to do that. But with the embedded content coming, you can think of having like a URL and then that consumes some field from your chart and then generate the D3 chart on the fly and then display it on the embedded content element.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if there's a way to integrate it so that the actual dashboard is connected to your D3, similar to like custom JavaScript applications.
Mm-hmm. I would say the short answer is no. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that coming in future releases?
Yes. Okay.
Any limitation on number of video feeds on a dashboard that you're aware of?
Okay, on the video feed?
Number of video feeds. Can you have more than one, and is there a limitation?
Okay, the question is there any limitation on the video feed, right? Number of video feed? No, actually, this one is a URL. You can put whatever there. I mean, yeah.
And just as a follow-on to that, does the HTML version have any of the multi-screen functionality that the old one had, or did we just like set up separate dashboards for every screen?
No, it's a single display. Yeah, but I mean, by single display, I mean you put everything on a single screen. Yeah, but the layout is pretty flexible.
And that's simply because it's a browser limitation.
Yeah.
Browsers can't have multiple windows.
But you can just stretch the browser if possible.
Yes.
Yes. Any other questions? Okay.
Is there an SDK for it for the widgets and all that?
So the SDK, right? No, again, we don't have a developer story yet, so there's really no API.